Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today I'd like to take some time to talk about Rage of the Elements. It's a really, really good book, and while I am going to be making a video going in depth into the entire Kineticist class, this isn't that video. The Kineticist looks really good, but it's a huge class, so I need a bit more time to look through it, and before making a video on it, since I don't want that to just be my initial reactions, I want it to be more, an actual in-depth look. In this video, though, we are going to be talking about the Kineticist multiclass archetype and the elemental barbarian instinct for reasons that is going to become pretty apparent later. As you might expect, the Kineticist multiclass archetype gives you minor abilities that a full Kineticist is going to have, just like how other multiclass archetypes work. The dedication can be taken at level 2 by anyone who has at least a +2 constitution modifier, which is really easy to qualify for since literally everybody wants con. Just by taking the archetype, you get to pick a single element that you can then channel, and you can also make an elemental blast of that element and channel that element like other Kineticists. Although you don't get the ability to make a blast when channeling, and also your blast doesn't automatically increase in damage. Of course, the meat of the Kineticist class lies in the impulses that you get through feats, and you can get some from the Kineticist archetype in basically the same way as every other multi-class archetype. There's a level 4 feat that gives you a level 1 or 2 Kineticist feat, which includes any impulses that you qualify for that are related to the element that you picked. And then there's a level 6 feat that lets you pick Kineticist feats up to half your level. This is the only way that you're going to get more impulses, and impulses are what you need to do any of the cool Kineticist stuff, so I highly recommend grabbing a couple if you're planning to multi-class into the Kineticist. Now, there are other feats in the archetype outside of just getting impulses. One lets you use the base Kinesis impulse to do just minor manipulations of your element. Improved Elemental Blast lets you increase the damage of your Elemental Blast. Add element, lets you get another element. And finally, Expert Kinetic Control makes you an expert in the Kineticist class DCs and impulse attack rolls. Seeing as expert isn't a super high proficiency, generally, if you're going to be multi-classing into the Kineticist archetype, I really recommend focusing on defensive and utility impulses that don't care the most about your DC or your attack rolls. Thankfully, there are plenty of those, and they are legitimately really, really good. Changing subjects quite a lot, though, but less than you'd probably think. Let's talk about the literal Rage of the Elements. The Elemental Instinct Barbarian almost had to be in the book just for that joke alone, and it's actually really intriguing. It's a great option for people who want to play a barbarian that does energy damage, but who don't want to play a Dragon Instinct Barbarian. The basic instinct is about what you'd expect. You choose a particular element, and then your rage damage is based on that element. And once you get raging resistance, the resistance you get applies to the damage types from your element and any creatures that have that trait. So you get resistance to fire if you chose fire as your element, and resistance to any damage that is done by creatures with the fire trait. As an additional benefit, you're also concealed from range attacks while you're raging because you're just surrounded by so much energy. I did skip over the most interesting part of the instinct ability itself, though, which is that if you have the access to any impulse that has the same trait as the element you chose for your instinct, those impulses gain the rage trait for you. This lets you actually use them while raging, and it opens up a lot of very, very interesting build opportunities. I've only got one main complaint, though, which is that this kind of feels like one of the larger parts of the instinct. So I'm assuming that most Elemental Instinct Barbarians are going to be multi-classing and taking the Kineticist archetype. And it just kind of feels weird because, I just feel like they kind of should have gotten at least one impulse automatically without having to multi-class, because it kind of just makes the Kineticist dedication almost required for Elemental Instinct Barbarians. This is especially frustrating, seeing as there are actually two really interesting feats that are specific to the Elemental Instinct. Elemental Evolution lets you get a second damage type that you can pick when raging, which adds just a crazy amount of versatility, because sometimes you don't want to do fire damage, like if you're fighting a fire elemental. Elemental Explosion gives you some versatility in a bit of a different way, because it lets you explode and deal a ton of damage. Like, it actually out-damages the Dragon's Breath Barbarian feat. It's a really, really, really good feat. It's a bit hard to control though, and it's a little harder to aim than Dragon's Breath, but it's a really good source of AoE damage, which is something that basically every martial character is going to be looking for. While I wish that there were more archetypes in Rage of the Elements, I'm still really, really happy about the book overall. Kineticist is such a versatile class in basically every way, and it means that the multiclass archetype sets up so many different character options that I'm looking forward to play. And like, seriously, I already had a lot in mind of stuff I wanted to do, and now I've got even more. Seriously, this book is a legitimate pleasure to read through. Thanks for watching. I wasn't anticipating to get this book so soon, but I'm very glad that I did. What information about Rage of the Elements are you most interested in seeing me talk about? Let me know in a comment down below, and while you're down there, you can always consider subscribing or joining up as a member or something. My members seriously help me pay to, get these books. Regardless, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.